Not to say that I'm an expert or I'm the best at it, but I've just been booked for yet another multi-thousand-dollar presentation on stage. In this video, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I do as I start to prepare for this presentation to a group of urologists. So, number one, when someone reaches out to me to present to a group of professionals, the first thing I do is I ask about where is this presentation going to be presented. I ask about the size of the venue and also the kind of stage, and if possible, if it's going to be at a hotel, I also look up where the hotel is located and also their stages and their exhibit halls and presentation halls. I also ask about if they are asking me to present using slides. I also ask about the size of the slides that they want me to prepare. Is it a 3x4 or a 16x9? Will they be using a projector? So that's the first thing that I ask. The second thing that I want to know is what kind of audience? To whom am I going to be presenting? Bunch of professionals, laymen, etc. That makes a big difference in how I craft the presentation. The size of the audience also makes a difference. I want to know how big is the crowd so I can mentally prepare for that presentation. And lastly, the presentation itself. No matter what I do when I speak on stage, I want to always be empathetic to the audience. And that presentation is always about the audience and never about myself. And that's one of the easy ways to, if you will, get over yourself, meaning to overcome the stage fright. A lot of us are super afraid of public speaking, being on stage, speaking in front of crowds. And I was like that too when I first started. Gosh, I think the first big presentation was to a crowd of 200 people back around 1996 when a professional group reached out to me and I presented to about 200, believe it or not, bookstore sellers down in San Diego. They flew me down to San Diego. I was super, super anxious, but I overcame that over the years, and now I almost enjoy the challenge of speaking in front of a crowd and figuring out ways to win them over and do a phenomenal job. And so now I'm being paid thousands of dollars to present for an hour and a half. So presentation is always about your audience and never about yourself. And if you can think of that as you go on stage, as you prepare for this presentation, or if you're being asked to present, always think in terms of what value am I presenting or bringing to the audience, because the presentation is never about you. All right, enough about that. The type of audience, the type of presentation dictates the type of tone that I'm going to use, also the depth in which I'm going to speak regarding the topic, the complexity level. If I'm talking to a bunch of physicians, then I know I can use lingo that is pertinent to that presentation versus to a bunch of laymen, I'm going to use very simplistic sixth grade level language. The other thing that I do when I prepare my presentation is that I rehearse. I used to worry and perseverate and fixate on the words that I'm going to use when I present, when in actuality, the words that I use comprise of only about 7% of communication. Most of my communication involves tone and also body language. Body language and tone comprise of most of presentation communication and not the words that I use. I used to fixate on what I'm going to say. Now I just have an outline of what I'm going to say and I rehearse, and this is really, really important. I rehearse as if I'm actually presenting to a live audience. And I'll say this again. I rehearse as if I'm actually presenting to a live audience. That means not mentally rehearse. That means I'm literally standing and delivering using the same tone, the volume, and I pace and I pretend that there's an audience in front of me as I rehearse. By the time I'm done rehearsing, I know my topic and content inside and out. The slides that I create will typically contain fewer than 40 words in the first 10 slides. Fewer than 40 words total in the first 10 slides. And I took that advice from The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. It's a book that I read years ago. What I commonly see among especially professional and scientific and urologic medical presentations, they're horrible. I hate to say they're horrible. The presenter gets on stage and almost read word for word what's on the slide. And the slide usually contains tiny little words and bunch of words and a lot of bullet points. And I think of those slides as death, presentation death by bullet point. You see, humans, as soon as you present a slide with a bunch of words, our natural inclination is to read what's on the screen and not to listen to you. And despite what you may think, we cannot multitask. We think we can do multiple things at the same time, but unfortunately, we cannot multitask. Humans are single task machines. Present a bunch of words on a slide. As a human, I'm going to feel compelled to read what's on the slide and not listen to you. I can only do one thing at a time. Which begs the question, presenters who present a slide with a bunch of words, they're almost telling me that the presenter is irrelevant because he or she is forcing me to read a bunch of words on a slide. Which then begs the question, why is the presenter even here in the first place? If I'm going to read the slide, why do I need the presenter? The presenter is there to help me figure out which concepts are really, really important to distill the essence of whatever the study is. So you may want to consider presenting just the headline of the story, headline of the study, and give me a summary. Better yet, the really, really good presenters will tie the topic or the concept with stories. Humans are hardwired to listen to stories. When I start a presentation, I always want to start with a story. And now, most recently, I start a presentation with a magic trick. It's a metaphor which ties into the topic that I'm going to start with in my presentation. Imagine how memorable that would be versus just, hi, I'm John Lin, I'm a urologist, blah, blah, blah. Here are my credentials, and here is the study. I recite the story with the whatever words on the screen, and then I move on to the next slide, blah, blah, blah. The droning sound of your voice, it becomes irrelevant. I never want to do that. If I'm going to take the time and deliver the energy to present something, I want to make sure whatever I'm saying sticks to the audience because I think whatever I'm saying is really important. And it's important enough for me to rehearse and create stories and tie things using analogies, metaphors, and similes to make the concept sticky to the audience. So anyway, that's pretty much it. 3 points. Finding out the venue, the audience, and also things that I do when I create these presentations. Here's some tactics, something else that I do when I present to a live audience. This is another pet peeve of mine. Presenters hiding behind the podium. Presenters hiding behind the podium. And I think of it as hiding behind the podium. It could be because of anxiety, discomfort with the topic. And I know often there's a confidence monitor showing the slide that you're presenting to audience down below you. The typical presenter will stand behind a podium and look at the confidence monitor because that's what's comfortable. What is more difficult, but more impressive and where you can better connect with your audience is to be off the stage. If you think about it, if you look at some of the presentations by Tony Robbins, he is literally in the audience. He is walking among the audience. What that does is it signals to me that he wants to connect with the audience. His message is so important that he really wants to get it in your head. He wants to be looking at you when he is presenting to you and not looking at the conference monitor, which means a lot more work for the presenter because I have to really know my material in order for me to feel so comfortable that I don't need the conference monitor to present to the audience. If you can't do that, either more practice on public speaking or quit being so lazy. I hate to say it. To do this really well, you really have to spend a lot of time, practice, and energy if you want to deliver that message really well. Okay, I want to eliminate barriers, basically, between myself and the audience. And that podium is a barrier between myself and the audience. I want to connect with the audience. And for people to care about what you're saying, you need to connect with them before they're going to care about what you're saying. One of the easiest ways to connect with the audience is to simply be among the audience. It conveys to the audience that I feel you. I'm among you and I am you. Once you make that connection, then you can share the message that you want to share. In order to do that connection, to be off the stage, to be able to walk off the stage, you want to use not really a handheld microphone. Whenever possible, I don't want to hold something in my hands because this ties me to a microphone, ties my hand to the microphone. What did I tell you? Most of communication is nonverbal, tonality and body language. What I'm doing right now, notice my hands, what I am doing right now is communicating with you using my hands. If my hands are tied up using a microphone, I can't be as effective of a communicator versus someone who has hands free and I can use my hands to gesture. So in order to do that, you need to connect with the audiovisual people and talk to them. Tell them that you want to use a wireless lavalier microphone that connects to you here, or what I personally prefer is something like this. This is a head-worn wireless microphone. You put this behind, this will be fitted before you walk on stage, and you would put this over your ears, and the microphone is right here. The reason I prefer this type of microphone, and actually I bring this myself, just in case the audio-visual people don't have it, I bring my own transmitter, receiver, wireless transmitter, receiver, and also a head-worn microphone. I bring this wherever whenever I have to present because I don't know if they have it. The reason I use this is because if I'm standing facing you and somebody over to stage left asks a question and I turn my head, if I'm using a lavalier microphone, and you may hear the difference now, I turn my head over here and the microphone is still over there, you notice a drop off in the volume. And I never want to do that. I want to really connect with the audience. So that lavalier microphone stays here. If I turn my head, the volume drops off. I want to avoid that. And that's why I use a head-worn microphone, because no matter where I turn, the microphone is always stationary right here. My voice never drops off. The key thing is you want to do everything you can to make it easy for your audience to consume your message and content. Anytime that there's friction, anytime you make it difficult for your audience to hear your message, people are more likely to tune out. And if you really walk among the audience, you will know if people are tuning out, because the audience member will be doing this while you're presenting. And if you are walking among the audience, you will notice when people are tuning out. You can't hide behind the podium and try to ignore the audience. If you're looking at your audience, they know you mean business. They feel that the message that you're sharing with them is really, really important, and you really want them to get whatever it is that you're saying. So if you want to reach that next level, I implore you to consider rehearsing a lot so the content becomes secondary and you learn how to deliver the message using your body language and your tonality. The words that you use, not as important as how you deliver that message. And rehearse, 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 as if you're actually presenting to the audience and not just rehearsing in your head. Rehearsing in your head, unfortunately, doesn't work as well. Trust me, I've done it. I know how it works. And also, use a lavalier microphone. Try to walk among the audience. Don't hide behind the podium so that you can really connect with your audience first before they realize that, oh my gosh, this guy really believes passionately regarding the message that he wants to share. All right, comments or questions? Leave them below. Thank you so much again for the privilege of your time. Please take care of yourself and take care of each other. Bye-bye.